There's a public early access release of Unreal 5 now, and I've been interested in giving it a try. I haven't looked through too much of the learning content Epic has posted, but taking a quick look at the editor, it looks pretty similar to what I've been doing in Unreal 4. You can't export anything out of this version of Unreal 5 yet, so I figured anything I tried should be pretty small in scope. I tried to think about what could fit the bill for this project, and I remembered this weird thing on the PSP called Pandemonium. It's part of a collection of mini-games called Work Time Fun that came out in 2006. In the game, you're on an assembly line for putting caps on pens. There's 3 buttons. Put the cap on the pen, flip the pen over, and submit the pen. Each pen you receive will either be right side up already, or upside down, so you need to flip it. There's no time limit, so you keep going until you don't want to anymore. Based on how many pens you finish, you get paid with money, and you can then take to gacha machines where you can unlock stuff like new minigames. It's a very simple concept, so I figured it'd make a good first Unreal 5 project. First thing I did was go in Blender and make a model for the pen. Since so much of the gameplay is tied to what state the pen is in, having an object that could be in all of the states was very important. This is where I made my first big mistake. I tried to make one model that had both the pen and the cap model in it at the same time, including all of the required animations. The bones were rigged so that the root bone was in the pen and offset from that was the child bone in the cap. I made 6 animations, 2 for the pen flipping in either direction, 2 for the cap being on in either direction, and 2 for the cap being off in either direction. I figured with the animation blending stuff that Unreal provides, swapping between states and transitioning through these animations should be simple and doable. Set up the standard animation blueprint with a state machine that logically follows what state transitions the pen can make. Then I took the 2 flipping animations, converted them into anim montages, and made them playable based on events from the player controller and the blueprint pen class I'd already made for this thing. Then I took the existing animation state machine and using caches and the animation blend per bone node, tried to get the flipping and state-based animations to blend, as you would find in any Unreal animation tutorial you could find. Logically this should work, and it did. It just looked very bad. Animations snapped to positions or didn't play, sometimes the pen would flip in the wrong direction. It was a mess. I tried modifying the model's bone hierarchy, introducing a different root bone and trying different ways of parenting them. I also tried different blend nodes in Unreal, like the blend on bool node. I spent about 2 weeks trying different things for this, and none of it seemed to work. Eventually I gave up and decided to just do the animations in blueprint code. I split the one cap and pen model into 2 models, the cap and the pen. Within a few hours, I had the models rotating and flipping using blueprint code and not the exported animations. I felt bad doing it this way, but it's a valuable lesson about root animation and how to use it. Once the pen was done, I could write the rest of the game logic. I did this in Blueprint since I knew I wanted to make this video, and looking at the Blueprint editor is a lot nicer than looking at a Visual Studio project full of code. Blueprint pen was the Blueprint class I had already started doing the animations. A pen can be in one of 4 states, and I hold that as an enum type. It's right side up or upside down, cap on or cap off. Depending on what state you're in, the blueprint pen tick is going to do the correct rotation animations. The pen can transition between states with the function change pen state, which will check your current state and what state you want to change it to, and sets the 2 models into the correct position to make that look right. There's a cap pen function which will go between capped and uncapped, and a flip pen event for up and down. Flip pen has to be an event and not a function because it rotates based on a timeline, and timelines have to go into events, not functions. The cap comes on and off instantly, just like in the PSP original. Then, to manage the pens, I have BP Pen Tracker. It instantiates and holds references to 4 BP pens. In the original game, you see 3 pens on screen at all times. The current one, the next one, and the previous one. The extra one is just a placeholder so that when I do the submit animation where everything shifts to the left, it can look smooth. The BP Pen Tracker class mainly deals with when you submit a pen and need to change the reference to what the current pen is. It also acts as the source of truth for what the current pen is. You need that source of truth for the game mode and the player controller classes. The player controller has 3 input events from the original game: cap, flip, and submit. The cap button will call the cap function on the current pen, flip calls the flip pen event on the current pen, and complete fires a custom event, with the only subscriber being BP Pen Tracker. I could have done the same thing with just a reference to BP Pen Tracker, but I didn't want to couple the player controller and that class together if I could avoid it. The next thing I needed to build was the level. In the original game, it's just a static image of an assembly line, like a JPEG. I modeled the room, the assembly line conveyor belts, as well as the light fixtures on the ceiling in Blender. For material textures, I tried out using the Quixel tool for the first time. Epic acquired Quixel some time back, and the Bridge Importer tool has been available for Unreal 4 for a little while now, but I've never used it, so it was new to me. It's pretty easy to search for good-looking surface materials and just stick them in, but I have two caveats to working with it. One, all the assets you're going to import are super large, so you can't just import a bunch and see how they look, because it takes up too much space in the project. And two, you still have to mess with the UVs of your models to get the materials to look right. It's a lot of scaling size and trial and error to get things to look good, but the end result I think is worth it. Lighting uses the new Lumen GI model. On the ceiling lights, I actually made the tube part of the light fixture model use a glowing material so it gives off its own emissive lighting. It doesn't do much to light the room, but with all of the standard lights in place, you can see the glowing effect. It's fairly noticeable. For the actual lighting of the room, I used 3 rectangular lights. There's one on each end of the room, and there's one on the ceiling. And none of these lights are static. They're stationary type lights. There's no baking lights or lighting builds. I did make a light map for each of the models, but I'm not sure if you have to do that with Lumen. One thing I wanted to do and I couldn't do was actually add people. The background of the original PSP game shows people in the background, working at their assembly lines. I thought about using that new metahuman tool to sort of get these really nice character models and put them in my scene, but right now metahuman is an invite-only project. Additionally, the Unreal Assets store is not very usable with Unreal 5 right now, so I just said, this looks fine, forget it, we'll just go with this. I did remake a lot of the UI. At first, I just wanted to do the title screen, which just has the word Pandemonium spelled out with pens on a wooden table. I did a Twitch stream of me doing this actually. I got a high-res Quixel wood texture, I put it on a cube, and I took my pen model, and by duplicating it over and over again, I painstakingly recreated that background. After that was done, I figured I might as well just do the rest of the UI since it's all pretty simple. Starting off, on the title screen, you have 3 options. It's Start, Instructions, and Exit. Start will change to the gameplay map. Instructions puts up a static image, and Exit would exit the game if I couldn't make a standalone build. The instruction screen I ripped directly from the game. It's just a screenshot that I edited in GIMP to change the images of the buttons. In the game, there's a big counter at the bottom. This one's tricky. I had to take the count of pens completed from the game mode, and then based on the number of digits in that, which is just a conversion to string, and then you get the length of the string, I add the correct number of zeros in front. It also restricts me to using a fixed width font for this counter, because the digits can't have different widths. It's a weird piece of UI from the original game that I think gives it a lot of character, so I made sure to have it in my version as well. From the game, you can exit by pressing Start and selecting Paycheck. This Start menu is just a blue rectangle with 2 options on it, and I made it based off the original, but it's not a screenshot, it's an original art asset. The Paycheck results screen is just a red overlay and 4 numbers that use similar logic from the counter. It gets the number value of the string and then takes its length and adds the zeros in front. I had to recreate the audio as well. Some of it I could rip directly from the game, like the title screen jingle. Other stuff gets drowned out by ambient audio inside of the game. The original game does this weird thing where occasionally you get a text-to-speech sounding clip that's supposed to be a coworker talking. I recreated this effect with some online text-to-speech thing.
I want to go home.
And then added some functions in the game mode class to play them at random intervals. I took a lot of the lines in the game, but I also made some of my own. The game mode also plays a drilling sound cue at random intervals. It's one clip, but I used a sound cue to randomly pitch up and down. The timing isn't perfect, but it's close enough. With all of that done, I can call this remake finished. To wrap up, I'll show a bit of gameplay. This was a fun project, and I think I understand a little more about what to expect from Unreal 5 when it's fully released. Unfortunately, I can't release this because of the early access state of Unreal 5, but if that changes in the future, I will see if I can put it on my itch.io page. For now, thanks for watching.
Talking. I heard the boss talking. conversations are so interesting. 17,200 pence. I'm tired, I've been working too hard. I left a 1-star rating.